Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're really excited to be here presenting to you virtually about a case study we're pretty proud of. Our presentation today is titled Winning in a Bricks and Mortar World, how Kellogg's used conversational research to prepare for the future of grocery. So Melissa, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, John. Excited to be here today.
Let's quickly do some intros and then we'll jump into the good stuff. So I'll start. My name's Jonathan Dore. You can call me John. I'm a senior vice president and one of the founding partners of Reach3 Insights. I'm up here kind of representing two companies today, though. So, of course, Reach3, but also our dear friends and our sister company, Rival Technology, whose platform we use to run this really cool and innovative research project. Melissa, how about you introduce yourself?
Thanks, John. So I'm Melissa Davies. I'm the director on our Shopper Insights team within the Insights and Analytics function at Kellogg's. So that means that we do cross-category, cross-channel shopper research, which is why we work with John on this particular study.
You have been at Kellogg's for a while. You want to tell us a little bit about Kellogg's?
So Kellogg's, you may know many of our brands, but not realize that they're from Kellogg's. So we span so many different categories from breakfast. So obviously you probably know cereal with Frosted Flakes, to salty snacks being Cheez-It and Pringles. And then we even have plant-based protein with Morningstar Farms, brands that you might not think about like Kashi and RX Bar. So yeah, I've been at Kellogg's for over a decade. Mainly in the shopper insights analytics function. So I have expertise in kind of behavioral science. And one of our key focus areas within Kellogg's is making sure that we work with innovative partners, which is why I was so excited to work with Reach3 and John and the team, because they are a great innovative partner to us.
Yeah, awesome. So we do have a really cool shopper case study that we're going to walk everyone through today. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the methodology, some of the outcomes, do you want to set this up for everyone? Tell us a little bit about background objectives that fueled this project we ran together.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of challenges, obviously, in the last year and a half during the pandemic. But one of the challenges that we saw was around the increase and just the inflection point that we saw with online grocery. So we all know we saw a 54% increase in 2020 alone. Kellogg saw that same increase, but we saw it as an opportunity. How do we really look to understand who are these new shoppers that entered the online omni shopping space, and how do we this brick and mortar world? So that was really the challenge, making sure that we captured that conversion of all these new shoppers, but also existing ones that had been shopping prior. And that's when we reached out to John and the Reach3 team.
Yeah, what's interesting is we obviously did a lot of research around e-com grocery shopping over the past 18 months or so. I think just as brands and retailers are really figuring out how to evolve to these new shopping behaviors, there's also an interesting thing going on in the world of MR, of marketing research. I think it's really high time that we as an industry and insights evolve as well. I oftentimes like to think about market research in sort of three phases since I joined the industry. And really that first key phase was when really the whole industry shifted online around the year 2000. The movement from really telephone interviews and actually mailing surveys out through snail mail. And with the rise of the internet, we're able to obviously take paper questionnaires and do it online. For me, phase two of modern market research is really everything that's been happening since the year 2000. Democratization of insights, lots of really cool tools and techniques, infusion of behavioral science into our space that has facilitated like deeper shopper consumer understanding. But amidst all this new technology, like the actual philosophies of research hasn't really changed much. We still are very much ask and answer. And when you think about how communication preferences have changed, particularly over the past 5 years, the rise of messenger services, text messaging, Facebook Messenger. So what we're seeing is communication has really become less formal. It's become more intermittent and short form versus long form and overly formal. And it's kind of time that research adapts to meet this kind of organic messenger style, natural, organic type of communication style. What we're trying to do here with this idea of conversational research and what we designed for Melissa and Kellogg's with this project was pretty simple. It's this idea of you engage with your customers in a conversational style. You do it in mobile messaging networks where they're really spending their time today doing most of their communication. And as a result, you're able to capture really immersive and in the moment insights. It really is robust, rigorous kind of depth research, but at a pretty good speed as well. So I'm kind of interested from your perspective, Melissa, like when you heard about conversational insights, a conversational based approach, like what really stood out to you and what resonated such that you thought this project would be a good fit for a conversational based approach?
Yeah, especially given our business question, the fact that we were talking to those that could be purchasing through a mobile device, I think that was really fun. The fact that it was humanizing it, right? I mean, to be honest, when the team sent me the questionnaire to review when we were already in the project, it was fun for me to even review it. So I thought to myself, respondents are going to have fun taking this. I think that was what was so important. John mentioned the pictures. It just really brought context to the quant, which is really cool. So I think you're going to talk about the approach we took with qual and quant, but the fact that you could get actually some qual in your quant. And like I mentioned on the upfront, we had a ton of different categories that we were trying to explore. This was a pretty robust study. So it wasn't like we were just talking to one retailer in one category. We packed a lot in there. So the fact that we were able to use it in such a fun format was really cool. And one of the reasons that we were super happy with Reach3 and what we were able to accomplish with this work.
Yeah, awesome, cool. So, hey, with that, let's dig into the methodology. So we've broken this out into three key phases for you. Melissa just mentioned we had a formal quant phase. We did do a follow-up qual phase, and then we had a really particular focus on workshopping and activating our insights from this project. So we'll walk you through each of the three phases. That first phase was this messenger-based quant and qual. I will say, for all intents and purposes, this really was our quant phase. So I would think about this phase as being about 90% a quant survey, but designed to be conversational in the Q&A, and of course programmed on the Rival Technologies platform so that when a participant's completing it, they almost feel like they're chatting with a friend, even though they're actually taking a pretty robust quantitative survey. So we had huge retailer coverage here, thousands of completes, making sure that we had coverage across a lot of Kellogg's key retail customers who had tons of questions, and we're really trying to adapt as fast as possible to this idea of click and collect or bricks and order. We also had coverage across key shopper cohorts, ages, genders, as well as just the categories that people were or weren't purchasing. Conversational doesn't mean qual. Like, again, this was a quantitative research phase. We ran advanced analytics off of our data. So have data tabs, have strong base sizes for subgroup analyses, and we actually did run Shapley value regressions to better understand particular drivers and barriers to shopping for certain Kellogg's categories at the various retailers. Melissa, anything else to add to phase one? What was the one thing that stood out to you of why this phase was so critical for your brief?
Yeah, I think, I think when I talked to you the first time, it was important for us to have the quant, because at Kellogg, it's real important. Like, give me that size, give me that percent, the advanced analytics that you were able to run, the fact that we were looking across many different retailers and categories. We needed to have that specifics around drivers and barriers. And I think that's what really delivered in this section and what was really important for us.
Awesome, cool. So phase two was then our formal qual phase. What we effectively did was we ran real-time in-depth interviews and utilized share screen functionality so that our shoppers could actually go to their primary retailer's website and do a little bit of grocery shopping in real time while we observed, of course, but also probed and asked questions along the way to just understand likes, dislikes, tension points, etc. So a couple key things to call out about this phase. First and foremost is that we were recruiting and recontacting participants from our phase one quant. So that was really critical just because at a participant level, we could actually go back to their quant survey results, understand what they had told us, and have that kind of tailor the guide and the conversation for this individual participant. So that recontact was done by SMS, which is a really good way to get folks in the moment. I mentioned real-time shopping was a big part of this. So just, of course, having the record functionality on, letting them go about their shopping trip without us interjecting too much, so you can get at those natural barriers, those little hangups and nuances that exist to the research plan from the start. It's something that I know Reach3 is a big believer of, as is Melissa. You know, really any good research project should have just as many answers as well as it facilitating and fueling new questions. So again, back to you, Melissa. For you, this phase, what stands out? Why was this so important when you kind of reflect back on the
Yeah.
project?
Outside the fact that's just also really cool to hear from shoppers. I mean, that's probably why we all love to do what we do. It was the depth, right? The fact that we could actually see what they were doing, those passive behaviors that we were able to then put videos in, and for our key stakeholders internally and with our retailer partners to say, hey, we talked to your shoppers, and here's what we uncovered. I think that was really great depth that we had.
Yeah, good call on the utility of the videos and the reports, Melissa. That's actually a really great segue. It's almost like we planned that. But do you maybe want to tell everyone a little bit about everything we did on the back end of this project, like a little bit about the workshops, a little bit about the deliverables we worked on together?
Yeah, this important piece, to be honest, is outside the technology and just the approach that Reach3 had. The fact that their deliverable is like amazing. We've worked with suppliers before where you have to really work with the deliverable, not Reach3. Like we almost got it. It was like perfect from the beginning, just some minor tweaks. And the fact that we had these workshops, there were digital kind of, I think, John, you'll talk about it, but your digital top line was amazing and really interactive. And then we had specific breakouts with specific teams, because at Kellogg, since we are so big and we're trying to cross so much ground, it's really important that we immerse folks in the findings, not just sending out a PowerPoint deck or even the digital top line, really walking them through and having a conversation of what this means on their business. How could we really change? What's going to drive change? What are those next things we want to go uncover? Like John mentioned about, this could lead to more questions, and it did. But that means it was great work.
Let's talk outcomes, how the research benefited Kellogg's and some of your retail customers.
Yeah, I mean, it was huge. Internally, this research was very well received. The fact that we had that digital output, the PowerPoints were really interactive, but to be honest, it was more in just the rigor of the results, that we had those drivers and barriers across many categories, across many retailers. And we actually saw some great immediate ROI with some projects specifically across some of our major retailers. So when we think about the online space, there was improvement in filtering and keywords. We all know how important that is. If you're on the shopper side or the e-commerce side, how important that is, and optimizing in that area. So we had some great wins with the retailer in that space. Also around just category purchases and fulfillment. So think about substitutions. How do we make that shopping experience easier? This work helped get some solutions across the line with the retailer that we were working with. And then just overall, I think the fact that we could have retailer conversations, we were grounding it in true shopper understanding. There was so much out there in the last year and a half around the online shopping space and bricks and clicks. The fact that we did custom work and we're able to say, we talked to your shopper, here's what we uncovered, here's specific to our categories, how you can make an immediate impact. I think that's really where we saw some immediate ROI. And really great work. And I think this is the part where I was so excited about. I think the work itself, we did it at a great pace, but to have some immediate results that we could show was really exciting as well.
Yeah, awesome. And how about you talk us through these, and I'll maybe add some color commentary afterwards. But I know this was a big reason you wanted to work together. This stood out to you from some of the other presentations or materials you had seen about us. Talk to us about these retail customer playbooks. What were they? Why were they important to you?
Yeah, I mean, they were specific to a retailer, obviously here, and we focused on our top retailer, but Playbook. I mean, it's funny, I don't know if we overuse that word as much, but I think it really tells you what's going on from a pain point perspective, a driver and barrier. It's like a quick hit. I want to know about this shopper at this retailer within our categories. And it was really easy to understand. And I think that's one key piece with research is like, sometimes us researchers can get bogged down in the details. These were quick hits, immediate action, fun to look at, fun to read. And they really resonated with our internal team, but also when we took these to our retailer partners.
Effectively, what we're trying to do with these digital top lines, or in this case, we activated a digital top line as a playbook, is take that executive summary slide and make it more visual, bring it into a new medium that's a little bit more innovative and unique, and might capture someone's attention a little bit better than just yet another PowerPoint slide or set of slides. So yeah, to Melissa's point, what these really are effectively custom web pages that we build, some lessons learned. So if you've been paying attention, this shouldn't be too surprising. So our first lesson is just to be conversational. When you are designing research exercises, whether that be a quantitative survey, whether it be a qualitative diary, I would just kind of urge people to talk to people like they're people. Right? Like, we're still trained researchers here giving this presentation. You want to have all the rigor behind your design and use proper scales and randomizations and rotations. But while you're still keeping all the good of traditional research and that rigor, you can also humanize your Q&A to make it a little bit more of a natural experience for that end participants. We want to also reduce that rationalization and the guesswork. We don't want people to have to, recall an experience that happened a really long time ago or guess on their responses. We want it to be a really intuitive experience, because that's how we're going to facilitate system one thinking, coupled with a research design that's more conversational, is just ideally having participants get through a survey and at the end never even really realized they were being surveyed. I think that's how you're going to get organic, authentic feedback, and most importantly, system one feedback. Over to you, Melissa, for lesson number 2.
Yeah, this is a great one. Iterative. I mean, the fact that was part of this study, but giving your research instant scale. So the fact that we can save on sample costs, but also time. I mean, we baked that in as part of the study, and I think it was so important and adds so much breadth to the work.
Yeah, that's awesome. You can actually see a real SMS message. I mentioned that phase 2 qual was an SMS-based recontact. So not an email that's going to get lost or get deleted, but rather shooting out a text message to one of our phase 1 participants who said they were interested in the qual. Shoot them a text message, getting them scheduled, and then going live. And obviously that phase 2, all you really did was just probe deeper and deeper on some of the initial learning we saw from phase 1. And finally, my big challenge for anyone watching this is to think about going beyond PowerPoint. Don't get rid of PowerPoint. We totally understand its utility. In many cases, I think of PowerPoint reports now as that base camp for deliverables, the base camp for results and insights. It's for the folks closest to the project. It's for the research geeks like me and Melissa who want to dig into the appendix and we want to see most questions reported out. But think then about that next level stakeholder, people who are on the periphery of insights. Is a 50-page PowerPoint report what they need to see? I would argue in many cases, no. And when you get to this suite of deliverables, as opposed to just one deliverable, you have more to work with. It could be that a particular stakeholder gets everything. It could be that a particular stakeholder just gets this. It could be that another stakeholder gets that. So this idea of a suite of deliverables that begins with PowerPoint, but then kind of elevates the insights with some more innovative communication tools, that's really powerful. And in particular, when you think about these non-PowerPoint deliverables, we have found it's almost easier to mix in both the traditional quant data with some of these qualitative multimedia-based inputs. Sometimes the second you throw a video selfie from a consumer in a PowerPoint, there goes your file size. So just by even using something like a digital top line, it plays a little bit more nicely with a variety of data inputs, and you could better tell your story from both the rigorous data as well as kind of the cool human data you get. So that's it for us. Melissa, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you doing this, for being such a great partner on the project. And I think from there, we'll let everyone go. Thanks for your time and for joining us today.